Hey everyone, welcome back to Apps from Scratch. Today, I'm going to teach you how to build Spotify's user interface for desktop and web. With Flutter, it's super easy to develop responsive apps that work across different platforms. Users will be able to select tracks, and our UI updates accordingly. We'll use Provider to share state throughout our application and keep track of the currently selected song. Throughout the video, I'll hit upon some easy UI tricks to help you develop a clean and beautiful user experience. Make sure to smash the like button and subscribe, as it really helps out the channel. If you want to learn how to build real-world apps with Flutter, check out my courses at launchclub.io. And with that, let's get into it. I've linked the starter project below containing all the mock data you need to follow along. Make sure that you're on the starter branch and download the zip file. Once you open up the project, you'll see I made some modifications to main.dart. Inside my app, I've set the title to Flutter Spotify UI. I've hidden the debug banner by setting it to false. And then I've also defined a dark theme. Brightness is set to brightness.dark. I've defined an app bar theme, scaffold background color, primary color, and accent color. And you can see what all of these colors are by looking to the left of each line number and seeing the color there. The icon theme is set to white. And I've also defined the font family as Montserrat. Inside the fonts folder, I've added the bold, medium, regular, and semi-bold versions of the font. Next, I've defined some text themes: headline 2, headline 4, body text 1, and body text 2. And using these throughout the app will allow us to keep a consistent styling. Finally, the home is set to scaffold for now. Let's go into data.dart. And here you can see we have all of our mock data that we're going to be using to populate our app. First, we have your library and playlists, which are both lists of strings. If we take a look at the UI, you can see that our your library populates the text here, and the playlists populates the text down here. Underneath this, I defined a song class, and each song has an ID, title, artist, album, and duration. We have a private list of lo-fi hip-hop music, because that's the playlist we're going to be showing. And this is a list of songs. And if we scroll down here, we can see there's a playlist class that has a bunch of different attributes and a list of songs. We're using the list of songs here, which is set to the private list of lo-fi hip-hop music, in order to populate the music in this playlist. Let's move on to our pub spec. I've set the environment to at least 2.12.0, so null safety is enabled in this project. We're only going to be using two packages: desktop window and provider. Desktop window allows us to set a minimum and maximum size for our desktop application. And so that way, we can avoid overflow errors by setting a minimum size to our desktop window. And we're using provider in this app, so we're able to know what the current song is. Here you can see the current song is Healthy Distraction, and it actually shows up down here too. And so whenever the user clicks on a different song, we're able to display that in the widget down here. In the assets section, I'm importing the entire assets folder. And this just has the Lo-Fi Girl JPEG and the Spotify logo. And then for fonts, we defined Montserrat. And then for each font weight, regular, medium, semi-bold, and bold, I've defined the weight for each one. The first thing we're going to do is create the shell of our application. This shell is going to contain all the widgets in our app. It's going to be a column widget with a row widget, and the first child in the row widgets will be the side menu, and the second child will be an expanded playlist screen. Down here is going to be the current song widget, and this will have a fixed height. Let's go into main.dart, and at the bottom here, let's replace home with shell. And we can define this underneath. We'll use a stateless widget called shell. And this will be a scaffold with a body of column. And here we're going to have an expanded row where the first child is going to be a container and the width will be 280.0. We'll set the color to colors.green and the height will be double.infinity. To the right of the container, we want to have a playlist screen, and we'll add this later on. And at the bottom of our column, we want to have a container here with a height of 84.0. The width set to double.infinity, so it stretches to the entire width of the screen. And the color, we'll set this to blue for now. Let's take a look at our UI. And you can clearly see on the left side, we have the side menu. On the right, we're going to have our playlist. And then underneath, we're going to be showing what the current song is. Next, let's deal with setting a minimum size for our desktop app. Because right now, you're able to make this as small as you want. And you can see already, we get an overflow error. At the top of our main function, we first want to make sure widget's Flutter binding is initialized, and so that way we're able to access our packages. Here we can just write desktop window dot set minimum window size, and the size here is going to be a minimum of 600 for the width, and the height will be a maximum of 800. If we hover over set min window size, we can see it's a future, which means that we need to await this, and main needs to be asynchronous. And so now if we save that, terminate the debugging session, and then relaunch the app, you can see when we try to make this smaller, it gets stuck right here. And we're no longer able to make this as small as we want. One more thing we have to do here to make sure that this line does not crash our application when we run it on the web is to put an if statement and check if k is web. And so if k is not web and the platform is macOS, platform.isLinux or platform.isWindows, then we want to call this. And so if there's an error here saying that you can't call is macOS, is Linux, or is Windows, make sure that you're not importing Dart.html and instead you're importing Dart.io. The reason we just can't check if the platform is macOS, Linux, or Windows is because if we run this on web and the application tries to access platform, it ends up crashing. And so that's why it's important to put this first, where we first check if the platform is not web. And so if we're on desktop, we're able to run this without any problems. Let's work on our side menu. This is going to be a container that has a color of black. We're going to have the Spotify logo up here, and then some list tiles for the home, search, and radio buttons. And then down here, we're going to have a scroll controller, so we can get the scroll bar on the right side, and these can scroll up and down to see all the playlists. Inside the shell, I'm going to cut out this container, and I'm just going to write side menu. This widget will be created inside of a new folder called widgets. Side menu.dart. Let's make a barrel file called widgets.dart, and this will export the side menu. And this will allow us to clean up our import statements because it lets us import only the widgets.dart file whenever we're using multiple widgets from this folder. Side menu is a stateless widget called side menu. Import material. And we can paste in what we just cut. Back in main.dart, let's import this. And now we can see that there is no change to our UI. Instead of setting the color to green, let's use our primary color by accessing our theme and setting it to primary color. The child is going to be a column widget, where the first child is an image asset, and we want this to access the Spotify logo, and so that's in the assets folder /Spotify logo.png. And that's looking really big, so we can make it smaller by setting the height to 55.0. And that's better, but it is a bit blurry. And to fix the blurriness on desktop, all we have to do is set the filter quality to filter quality high. And now that looks a lot sharper. We can add padding to our image and set this to 16.0. And then to align the image to the left side, I'm going to wrap this in a row widget. And so now Spotify is in the position it should be in. Next up, let's add the list tiles for our home, search, and radio. Underneath the row widget here, we can create a list tile. And this will have a title set to text, and we'll put home here for now. The style will be theme.ofcontext.texttheme.bodytext1. And we'll also set overflow to text overflow.ellipsis. So in the event the side menu becomes too small, the text will overflow, and we'll see the ... Leading is going to be the icon. So icon, icons.home. Color is theme.ofcontext.icontheme.color, which is the white color. And then size will be 28.0. And now let's look at that, and we can see that looks good. Since we're going to have to do this 2 more times for our search and radio, we can extract this widget out into its own widget by hitting Command period and clicking Extract Widget. And we'll name this widget Side Menu Icon Tab. And now this is going to take in a final icon data, final string title, and then a void callback on tap. Let's make all of these required. And don't forget this dot. And now down here, we can change the icon out for icon data. The home text will be title. And then on tap will just be on tap. Back in the side menu, we can add the title here. Home, the leading icon, which is from the icon data, will be icons.home. And on tap, we'll leave it empty. Let's copy this 2 more times. And the next one will be a search icon with the title search. And this next tab is radio. So icons.audio track radio. And let's look at that. We now have our home, search, and radio list tiles. This next widget is going to be called Library Playlists, and we'll create it as a private widget inside of our side menu file. Underneath the side menu icon tab, let's add a size box for some spacing, height of 12.0, and then we'll create our library playlists. This is going to be a stateful widget called library playlists. And instead of returning a container, we want to return a list view. Padding will be set to edge insets .symmetric, vertical 12.0. Physics will be set to const clamping scroll physics, and so that way when the user scrolls, it'll stop immediately when it hits the top or bottom of the list. We don't want the bouncing effect. children, we have another column, and this will be the your library text, and then underneath that will be the list of your library options. Text, your library. Style will be theme.ofcontext.texttheme. Headline 4. Overflow, remember to set that to text overflow.ellipsis. And we can wrap this in some padding. Set to symmetric, horizontal 16.0, and vertical 8.0. Underneath this, we can make the list right here. And so that's going to be using the spread operator. And we're going to map the your library, which is imported from data.dart. Your library is just the strings we need. And we can map this into the list tiles we need. So list tile, we'll make it dense, set to true. The title will be text E. Style will be theme.ofcontext.texttheme.body text2. And overflow will be set to text overflow.ellipsis. And on tap, we'll set them all to an empty anonymous function for now. And we need to remember to call .toList. So this is going to be a list of list tiles. And when we save that and look at our UI, we can see we're getting an error because our side menu disappeared. And that's because right now, we didn't define a maximum height for the list view. And so we need to wrap this in expanded. And let's hot restart. And now we see we have your library and all the different options. We can make your library left aligned by setting the column's cross-axis alignment to cross-axis alignment.start. And that looks good. Now let's do the same thing for our playlists. So here I'm going to copy the column. We'll add a size box for padding again, 24.0, and then paste this underneath. Instead of your library, we wanted to say playlists. And then instead of accessing your library, we can just put playlists. And let's save that and take a look. And now I'm able to scroll down and see our playlists. One more thing we have to add is our scroll bar on the right side. And to do that, we need to wrap our list view inside of a scroll bar. We'll make it always shown. And then we need to set a controller. So this controller is going to be a scroll controller. Scroll controller. We need to initialize it. Scroll controller is equal to scroll controller. And remember to put a question mark here, so we let Flutter know that this is nullable. And then don't forget to dispose it. Scroll controller, dispose. By setting a controller for the scroll bar and the list view, the scroll bar will know how far it has to scroll down. So scroll controller, and the list view needs a scroll controller. We can save that, hot restart the app, and now we have our scroll bar. And we can hold down on it and drag. Or just scroll normally. And now our side menu is all done. For our playlist screen, this is going to be a stateful widget because we need to keep track of the scroll position so we can show the scroll bar on the right side. It's going to have an app bar at the top, and then a playlist header showing the information about the playlist, some buttons, and some more information about the playlist. And below this, we're going to have a table that displays all the different tracks. Let's start by making the stateful widget and dealing with the app bar. Inside main.dart, let's uncomment the playlist screen. And we're going to make a new file, inside of a folder called screens, playlist screen.dart. This is stateful, and import material. Back in main.dart, we can import the screen. Now this playlist screen needs to take in a widget for the selected playlist. And to make this simple, let's just pass it in. Playlist, import data.dart, and we can generate the constructor. Instead of returning a container, we can return a scaffold widget that has an app bar. And in main.dart, we can pass in the playlist that we created inside data.dart. And so that's the lo-fi hip-hop playlist. You can see right now we're getting an overflow error on the right side. And to fix that, we need to wrap our playlist screen inside of an expanded widget. And now that looks a lot better. I just realized before we make the app bar, we probably should add the gradient background first, so we're able to see the items in our app bar easier. Inside the playlist screen, let's add a body. And this is going to be a container with width double.infinity. And it has a decoration, box decoration, with a gradient, linear gradient. It begins at the top center, so alignment.top_center. And it ends at alignment.bottom center. For the colors, the first color is going to be the red color, which will be color 0xFF AF1018. And the theme will be theme.ofContext.background color. And now we have our nice gradient. The app bar needs to have a background color of colors.transparent, so the red's able to go underneath the app bar. Elevation will be set to 0 to get rid of the drop shadow. And if we save that and look at our app again, we see that we just have a black bar at the top. And that's because right now, our body is not going beneath our app bar. It shows the app bar on top, and then the body is right underneath the app bar widget. So we need to set a property on the scaffold called extend body behind app bar to true. And now that fixes the issue. You can also see here that the gradient only goes for the first third of the screen. And so we can set the stops property on our gradient to 0 to 0.3. And now that matches the UI a lot more. From here, we should add the forward and back buttons, and this is going to be the leading widget of the app bar. So here we can set leading to a row widget, and each button is going to be an inkwell widget with a custom border of const circled border, and that's built into Flutter. On tap, we'll set to an empty function, and then the child will be a container with padding const edge insets .all 6.0. Decoration will be a box decoration with color colors.black26, and the shape will be box shape.circle. This can also be constant. And finally, the child is going to be icon icons.chevron left, size 28.0. And the icon is also constant. And this is our first button. Let's wrap the row in a padding widget to add some spacing. And we can set this to symmetric horizontal 16.0. And we see in the bottom right here that we have an overflow error. And that's because the app bar has a default leading width. We need to modify that leading width and add enough space for our buttons. So we'll set the leading width to 140.0. and that fixes the issue. From here, we need to add the other button. So const size box width 16.0 for more spacing. And then we can copy the inkwell widget and change this to chevron right. And save that. And lastly, we should set the main axis alignment of our row to main axis alignment.center. And that looks perfect. The right side here is going to be a text button with an icon, and then an icon button with a keyboard down arrow. For this, we need to set the actions of the app bar. Text button.icon. On pressed will be empty. Icon will be icon icons.account circle outlined. And we should set the size to 30.0. Make this constant. For the label, I'm going to put my name. And you can put your own name here if you want. And let's see how that looks. So the button is too far on the right side, and right now it's tinted blue. So we need to set the style of our text button by setting text button.style from, and then we set primary to theme.ofcontext.icontheme.color. And that fixes the color problem. In order to move this over to the left a bit, we can just add a size box here with a width of 8.0. And then we can add our icon button. That's going to automatically have some padding. So the icon will be const icon icons.keyboard arrow down. Size will be 30.0. And for the onPressed, this will be empty. And this looks okay, but we need some more spacing. So after this, we can add another size box with 20.0. And now when I click on this icon button, we can see it's a little off-centered, and that's because of the padding it has already. So to remove the padding on the icon button, we can set it to const edge insets dot only, because they all default to 0. And so now if we look again, we can see the icon is centered. Now let's add a list view with a scroll bar on the right side. The child of our container is going to be a scroll bar, and we always want to show, so isAlwaysShown will be set to true, and the controller will be set to scroll controller, and we'll define this in a second. Child will be a list view with controller. Padding will be const edge insets.symmetric, horizontal 20.0, and vertical 60.0. And then we'll have children. We can define the scroll controller on top. Scroll controller, make it nullable. And then inside init state, we can set the scroll controller equal to a new scroll controller. And in dispose, we can make sure we dispose the scroll controller when the widget is disposed of. Remember to hot restart the app because we added a new state variable. And now inside the children, we're going to make a widget called playlist header that takes in a playlist. And this playlist is from our widget.playlist because we passed it into our playlist screen. Let's create the playlist header inside of the widgets folder. Playlist header.dart. This is stateless, playlist header, and import material. It takes in a playlist. Import data.dart, so we have access to the class, and generate the constructor. Now in widgets.dart, we can export the playlist header. which means in the playlist screen, we can now import widgets.dart. The playlist header is going to be a column widget, where the first child in the column is the row widget that contains an image and then information about the playlist. Underneath it, we have some buttons and some more information about the playlist. Let's deal with this row widget first. Let's change the container to a row widget, where we have image.asset, playlist.imageURL, and if we go into image URL, we can see down here I've defined it as assets/lofigirl.jpg, and that's where the file is located. The height will be set to 200.0, and the width will be 200.0, so this is a square, and then the fit will be boxfit.cover. We need to add some spacing to the right of this with a size box, and then we'll have an expanded column widget, so the text will be able to expand to the entire right side of the screen. And to left align all the text, we can set the cross-axis alignment to cross-axis alignment.start. The first text widget we're going to have is playlist. Then we'll have the title of the playlist, the description, and then created by the creator of the playlist, some information about how many songs there are and how long it is. Text, playlist. Style will be theme.ofcontext.texttheme.overline, and then we need to call copy width on this to set the font size to a comfortable 12.0. Underneath that, we'll add a size box for spacing again, height 12.0, and then we need to show the playlist name. So that's playlist.name, style, theme.ofcontext.texttheme.headline2. Another size box, and this one will be 16.0. Text playlist.description, style theme.ofcontext.texttheme.subtitle1. And you can see how using these text themes really speeds up the styling of text and makes it a lot easier to keep a consistent styling across your app. Below this we'll have another size box with a height of 16.0. And finally, we have the created by text. So created by playlist.creator. And then I'm going to put a bullet point here, and on Mac I can do that with Option 8. Playlist.songs.length for the number of songs. And then we want the duration, which in our case is on the playlist object as a string. Now the style is going to be theme.ofcontext.texttheme, and this will also be subtitle 1. And now this looks exactly right. Underneath our playlist information, we want to display the buttons here. And so this is going to be spaced out a bit with a size box again, but this time it'll be 20.0. And then we'll make a widget called playlist buttons. And then we also need to pass in the number of followers with playlist followers. This will be a stateless widget called playlist buttons, and this is private to this file. Final string followers. Let's generate the constructor. And here we're going to have a row widget. Children text button. Style will be text button dot style from. Padding will set to const edge insets dot symmetric. Horizontal 48.0, vertical 20.0. The shape will be a rounded rectangular border. Border radius border radius dot circular 20.0. And we can set the background color to the green color, which is our accent color. Primary, which is the color of our text, will be theme.ofcontext.icontheme.color. And I'm using the icon theme here because it's white in this case. And finally, the text style can be theme.ofcontext.texttheme caption. And we're going to call copy width, so we can set the font size to 12.0 and letter spacing to 2.0. Don't forget to add an onPressed and set the child to a text widget that says play. And that was a lot of styling, but now we have our play button. Now, one thing I did wrong here was I put the play button underneath the text, and we actually want it to be underneath the entire row here. So to do that, let's cut out our size box and playlist buttons, and we want to wrap the row widget inside of a column. And now underneath the row widget, we can paste that back, hit save, and that looks a lot better. Now we just have to add our two icon buttons and the follower text. After the text button, we'll add spacing with a size box. Icon button number 1, we'll have a const icon, icon's favorite border, onPressed, and we'll set the icon size to 30.0. The next icon button is going to be icons.more horizontal. Icon size is 30, and onPressed is empty. Now to add the spacing between the icon buttons here and the followers, we need to add a spacer. And so we can do const spacer, and then we put the text here, followers, new line, and then we use the $sign to interpolate followers into the text. Style will be theme.ofcontext.texttheme.overline, copy width, font size 12.0. And then we can align this to the right with text-align, text-align.right. And this matches up with our UI. You can see when we make this smaller, the text just moves to the next line. And that's good. Now we need to add our songs table, or our track list, to show all the different tracks in the playlist. So inside the playlist screen, underneath the playlist header, we can make our tracks list. And this will take in the tracks, widget.playlist.songs. And let's make a new widget called tracks list.dart, stateless tracks list, import material, and now inside widgets.dart, we can export our tracks list. This needs to take in a list of songs. We'll call this tracks, import data.dart, and generate the constructor. And now that fixes the error in here because we're taking in a list of songs. Our tracks list is going to use the data table widget. And our data table needs columns and rows. Our columns are going to be data columns. And each data column will be the heading for our column. So first we have text title, then we have artist, album, and then we want an icon for the duration of the song. So icon, icons.access time. And remember to add some commas. We can make this constant because all the data columns are constant. And now if we save that and look at our UI again, we can see we have title, artist, album, and the icon. To display the tracks in our rows, we can do tracks, dot map, where E is a song, and we want to make each song into a data row. So let's return data row with cells, and each cell is going to be a different column. So the first one we need is the title of the song. So data cell will be text e.title. Style will be theme.ofcontext.icontheme.color, which is white. And we need to put .toList at the bottom here. And for the style here, I forgot to put text style, color. Now for the next 3 rows, we can just copy that 3 more times, but instead of title, we're going to put artist. Then we'll have e.album and e.duration. And now if we save that and look at our app, we now have all the different tracks in our playlist. And when I hover over any of the tracks, we can see we have the nice highlight. Our next goal is to handle tapping on the tracks list and selecting a new track. And so whenever a user taps on a new track, we want it to light up with the green color and be highlighted. Because we need to access the currently selected song throughout our entire application, we can't just use setState and scope it to our track list. We need to make a model called currentSongModel that contains our current song that we selected. Whenever the user taps on a track here, it's going to update our model, and all the widgets that rely on the state of the model will update accordingly. And so inside our lib directory, let's make a new folder called models, and we're going to call this current track.dart. This will be class current track model, extends change notifier, and this has a song that can be null because when the user first launches the app, they're not going to have a track selected. Import data.dart, and we're only going to have one method here, which is void, called select song or select track, whatever you prefer. Song track, selected is equal to track, and then we call notify listeners to update the UI. And I realized that I called this current track, and this should probably be current track model.dart. Now, in order to access this data throughout our entire application, we need to go to main.dart and wrap the run app my app in something called a change notifier provider. And this is from the provider package. It allows us to create the model here, context, and the instance will be current track model. And so now if we go into our tracks list and look at our tracks.map, we're actually able to tell which track is selected by making a boolean called selected, and then doing context.read. And in order to do this, we need to import provider. And here we can just write current track model dot, and we can see here we have access to selected. And so if the selected.id is equal to the current ID of the track we're looking at, then that means it's selected. And so the property ID cannot be unconditionally accessed because the receiver can be null. So we need to put a question mark before selected. So in the event selected is null, then this whole left side here is going to be null. So let's save that. And the text style will be based on this variable. So if it is selected, then we want to set the text style to color theme.ofcontext.accent color, which is green. And let's actually put the selected inside here because we only want to change the color. Otherwise, we want to be the icon theme. So cut that out, paste it right here. Let's save that. and set all these styles to text style. And a couple more things we have to do is set the selected property of our data row equal to selected. And the onSelect changed will give us back a boolean, but we don't actually care about the boolean. What we care about is that the data row is tapped. And so we know that we can then call context.read current track model and then call the select track method, selecting the track we just tapped. And so now if we save that, hot restart the app, and to remove that selected box, we can set show checkbox column to false. Let's also set the data row height to 54.0 to add some more spacing between each track, and the headings text style will be theme.ofcontext.texttheme.overline copy width font size 12.0. And now that's good. So when the user taps on one of these, we can see nothing happens. But we are selecting the track down here on onSelected change. And the reason this happens is because when we called selected, we did context.read. That means this is only going to update the UI the very first time this tracks list is created. We want the text style to change whenever we select a new song. And so we need to change context.read here to context.watch. And so that way, whenever there's a new change or an update to our current track model, and it calls that notify listeners, it's going to rerun the code here and recreate our data row. And so now if we save that, and we can see when we click, the song is updated accordingly, and we can see which song is selected. The final piece to our UI is this current track bar down here. We need to display the current track that's being played, information about the track such as the duration, and then some more controls over here. Inside main.dart, let's go down to our shell, and underneath the expanded widget, we have our container here. We can cut this out and return a current track widget. And this doesn't need to take in any variables because we're able to access the current track by going through the context to get our current track model. Inside widgets, we will make a new widget called currentTrack.dart. This will be stateless, current track, import material, and we can paste this in. Let's go into widgets and export the current track. And now the error inside main.dart disappeared. Let's work through this widget left to right. So the first thing we need to work on is adding the image with the two text widgets and the icon button. The child of the container is going to be a padding widget with padding const edge insets.all 12.0. The child will be a row widget, and this is going to be a widget called track info. This is stateless track info. And the first thing we need to do is get the information about the track. So final selected is equal to context.watch current track model dot selected. And in order to use watch, we need to remember to import provider. If selected is equal to null, then we can return a const sized box.shrink because we wouldn't want to show any data here if no track is selected. Return a row widget where the first child is an image.asset. And normally you would put the album artwork here, but for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to put the lo-fi girl. So assets lo-fi girl.jpg. Height will be 60.0, width will be 60.0, and fit boxfit.cover. To the right of this, we need to add padding, so const size box, width 12.0, and then we'll have a column widget for the two text widgets. First up, we have the text of the selected title. The style will be theme.ofcontext.text, body text1. And then we need to add more padding for the vertical, so height 4.0. Text is the selected .artist, style theme.ofcontext.texttheme.subtitle1, .copywidth, color, colors.gray 300, and the font size is set to 12.0. And so now if we save that and save it in main.dart, we can see the track now appears. So we have the lo-fi girl right here and the healthy distraction, less people. If I click on our new track, we can see it updates accordingly. Let's center the text and left align it. So the column will have cross-axis alignment, start, and main axis alignment, center. And don't forget to change the color of our current track to colors.black 87. And that looks a lot better. Now we just need to add the button here. So that's going to be an icon button with icon, const icon, icons.favorite border. On pressed will be an empty function. Let's add the player controls next, and this is going to be inside of a column widget because we want to show the timestamps underneath. This is going to be player controls, and this is a stateless widget, player controls. The first thing we do is we need to get the selected track, so copy that and go down here. Change out the container to a column widget. We have a row widget, and this is going to hold all of our different controls. Icon button, padding will be const edge insets dot only. Icon size is 20.0, and the icon is const icon icons.shuffle. And then onPressed is an empty anonymous function. Let's copy this 4 more times. This next one will be skip previous outlined. Then we have play circle outlined. And then skip next outlined. And then finally repeat. The icon size for our play circle will be 34 because in the UI it's a little bit bigger. And now underneath the row widget, we can add spacing for the size box, height 4.0, and then we'll have another row widget. So the left side is going to be the timestamp of 00, style theme.ofcontext.texttheme.caption. Then we'll add another const size box, but this time it's going to be width 8.0. And here we have a container with a height of 5.0. The width will be based on the current width of the screen, so we need to use mediaquery.ofcontext.size.width multiplied by 0.3. And this means that this container is always going to have a width equal to 30% of the screen. Decoration will be a box decoration. Color, colors.gray 800. And the border radius will be border radius.circular 2.5, so we have perfectly round corners. After the second size box, we can show the other duration, but we need to make sure that it's not null. So we check selected duration. If it's null, then we want it to be 0, 0. And the style will be again theme.ofcontext.texttheme.caption for consistency. And let's take a look at that. Right now we have Arizona 0 selected, and so the time on the right side we can see is 2:31. And when I click, everything updates accordingly. To add spacing between them, we can add a spacer between the track info and the player controls. And we should add an extra one after player controls too. And I saw in the track info, we do need to add one more font size box for spacing right before the icon button. And that's a width of 12.0. And now that's good. The last widget we have is going to be more controls. And these controls are the devices, the volume icon with the slider, and the full screen icon. More controls is a stateless widget called more controls, and it builds a row widget. We have our icon button. Icon is const icon icons.devices outlined. The icon size is 20.0, and on pressed is empty. And we need to add another row widget so we can have the volume icon with the slider. So icon button, icon is const icon icons.volume up outlined, on pressed. And then we have our container with a height of 5.0, a width of 70.0, and the decoration will be a box decoration color colors.gray 800, and the border radius is border radius.circular 2.5. And the last icon we need, we can just copy this and put it right down here. This is going to be the full screen icon. So full screen outlined. And we don't need an icon size for this. So let's save and check that out. And this is looking great. We have all our icons, the spacing is correct, and we're able to select the different tracks. One more thing we need to check is what happens if we hot restart the app and no song is selected. And so we just see 0, 0, nothing's on the left side, and the right side is still here. Once I select a song, everything updates accordingly. One more thing we should double check is the responsiveness of our application. When I make this smaller, we can see it looks fine. But when it becomes too small, we start getting render overflow errors at the top and the bottom. And so to deal with the track list first, we can see the more controls are overflowing. And so what we want to do is inside the current track widget, let's add an if statement here to check if media query.ofcontext.size.width is greater than 800. And if it is, then we will display the controls here. So if I save that and we take another look, we can see when this becomes smaller, the more controls disappears right here. And so the bottom here is not overflowing anymore. Now to handle the playlist screen, what we want to do is hide the side menu when the width of the screen becomes too small. And so let's copy this if statement, go into main.dart, and then right above the side menu, we can paste in the if statement. And so the side menu will only be visible if the current screen size is greater than 800 pixels. And so now if we look, and we make this big again, It looks really good. We make it smaller. It's getting a bit more cramped, but right at 800 pixels, the side menu disappears, and you can still read anything without any issues. And now we're all done with our Spotify UI. If you enjoyed, remember to leave a like and subscribe, and check out my full Flutter and Firebase courses on launchclub.io. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.